Hello and welcome back to another Let's Backflip Show Happy Hour. I'm Ryan Frank, co-creative director here at Flip, and as you can see, I'm not in any of the user because I'm in the true north. I'm northern lower Michigan visiting family, but we got this guest to come in and I didn't want to reschedule, so we're making do. We've got Luke kind of on the mixing board here, streaming from the Backflip office. But as always, I've got Mr. John Shoemaker, other co-creative director, joining me. Say, hey, John.
Hey, John. I'm here. I'm here in the southern northern part of the United States. In the
That's very specific. I like it.
in the west east of the Midwest.
SNWE.
Yeah.
Is that your cardinal direction?
Yeah.
Nice. I love it. Cool. So today we've got our friend and pal Edmundo Reyes joining us. Let me click on that. I can bring him in. There he is. What's up, Edmundo?
Hey, what's up, guys?
How you doing, man?
I'm very, very excited to be here. A little bit intimidated by the persona of these two people here that I'm interacting with, but
That's good, as you should be.
I know,
No, this will be great.
I know. I'm excited to be here. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I'm so excited we were able to get you on when we had a brainstorming session a couple of weeks ago. Just thinking about like who'd be really interesting people to have on. We kind of went on our like Catholic side and Catholic client list. Like, oh my gosh, we haven't even tapped this whole section over here, and you were at the top of the list. So I'm glad we were able to coordinate schedules and time zones, because apparently that's very confusing to me, and we made it work.
Well, that's very honoring. But they say there's these business, just theories or camps that nothing good comes out of brainstorming sessions. So just want to put it out there.
It's true. I do all my work separately, and then I tell everyone this is what we're doing. So this is a happy hour. So we're going to share our drinks here, and I'm going to do this real quick. Let's see. Luke, can you make me big? I don't have to actually do it. I was looking for a Michigan beer, but there's none in the house. There was only what we brought, and you just drag my video over. Normally I'm doing this. It's great that I'm not. So they didn't have any Michigan beer, but we have the beer that we brought, and this is actually really cool. Priest, Prophet, and King. So
Wow.
this is a barrel-aged barley wine from our friends at Carbon 4, and this is the 2022 edition, which they want to make it a thing every year. And this is kind of like their attempt at bringing elements of the faith into their beer, and also kind of taking over like the rock and roll style of beer can. You know, typically it's more demonic, but you know, we've got images of the Trinity here. You know, Priest, Prophet, and King. PPK is the first liquid to pass through our brew house and aged in a vintage collection of barrel. You know, kind of a normal beer description, but it's very Catholic because these guys are great Catholic guys. So that's what I brought to the party.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, John, what do you got?
Okay. Well, I'm continuing. I'm still doing it. I'm doing Slackers Dry January.
Slackers Dry January.
Well, I'm kind of doing Dry January, but I told somebody in a previous one of these, I'm like, I'm not treating it like Lent. Like, come on, it's not Lent. Like, I'm just like, yeah, it would be a nice little reset, a little bit of a detox month or
Absolutely.
whatever. And,
take control of your body.
Keeping it going. I have the Monday brand gin that I stole from Ryan's office. It's a non-alcoholic. I mean, do you call it gin still? It's you know, juniper and
right. It's an aromatic liquid.
Yeah, and it's quite good, and some tonic. So gin and tonic, basically. It doesn't have that like that bite, you know, that you're. Mm-hmm. If you like it, that's what you're looking for. If you don't like it, maybe you like that better. Anyway, Monday gin and tonic. On
a Friday.
And if things get real wild, maybe we'll. There's a mother. That was an impulse buy. I don't know what happened like 16 16-year-old me showed up. I was like at the Menards checkout, and there was like, there's the random case of drinks, and I was like, yeah, sure, Monster, why not?
That's going to be awesome. You got to drink it during the show so that we can see kind of the transformation you go through.
Yeah.
It'll be
Well,
shaking.
you wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
I like it. Good reference. All right. Now, Edmundo, I did see you ran away right before we went live. Are you partaking with us?
Two things. So the first one that I had, which I wasn't going to disclose, but now that John came clean with Monster, I'm drinking these water with one of those capsules, Noon, that has like a vitamin.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to stay healthy.
Nice.
And I have an upcoming trip, and just want to make sure that I get on a plane. But then I went and grabbed one of these all reliable Lagunitas IPA.
Ooh,
I know that
nice.
people here in Michigan are probably going to be disappointed that I chose something out of state, given the wealth and the breadth of our local beers here. But this is a good one that I like a lot. So.
Yeah, no, that's okay. We like to, we're equal opportunity drinkers, as it were. And I mean, that's kind of a thing. You're in Michigan, you drink some of the Michigan, and you're like, okay, I want to try something. Well, for instance, from Madison, you want to try something from somewhere else. But when we're going down to Lansing tomorrow. So my brother-in-law is probably going to have, I don't know, 10 or 12 different Michigan beers. So that'll be a delight.
It's the craft capital of the world, right? Like, now craft beer capital of no, like I think Grand Rapids area, not so much Lansing, but that area has like all those microbreweries that now have been bought by the big breweries.
It seems like breweries too, and alcohol in general, I don't know if this is a good thing or bad thing, have fared decently well through COVID. I know Carbon 4, some of their sales of some of their beer went up through COVID. It's good for a business. You think about a society, like, is that good for our society? I don't know.
I do wonder if it's because people weren't going to bars, right? Like maybe it's not so much the overall drinking that has increased. Maybe it has, probably it has, but also like consumer brands that are out there. I don't know.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that because you couldn't go to restaurants and keg sales went way down. So maybe it's just commensurate amount. So all right, we got through the drink part. Now we are live, so if people have questions, throw them in the chat. We're on YouTube and Facebook. We can throw them up and answer them here. To refresh, we're joined by Edmundo Reyes, Director of Communications over the Archdiocese of Detroit, and entrepreneur. Always have other things going, but why don't you go ahead and give us kind of your pitch? Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah. Well, the first is I'm a husband and father. I'm married and have 4 children. My oldest daughter is now an adult, which is crazy. That just feels like I'm ancient now. She turned 18 last year. She's getting ready to go to college this year, so that's very exciting. And then I have 3 teenagers. Technically, the youngest is 12, but he behaves like he's 15. So we think of like 3 teenagers and 1 adult.
You lucky duck.
I know, right? And then I'm very blessed. I live outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan, a little town called Dexter, and my mom also lives with us. So we're really blessed that for a number of years, my children have grown up with another adult in the house, a wiser and more gentle adult. So that kind of balances all the bad parenting coming from me. I was born in Mexico City, and I have a sister. And back then in Mexico, it was like there was all these thing about like small families live better. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but like back in the 70s, they pushed it hard. So most of my friends, they are like 1 or 2, one sibling or no siblings, right? Like, but so it was the 4 of us growing up in Mexico City. Then when we were 13, we moved to northeast Mexico, a city called Monterrey. So that's like the industrial kind of capital of Mexico. A lot of good things there. And that's a little bit of my kind of like background. My real story really, I think, begins when I was 17. And I was a freshman in college. I was a young freshman. I didn't know what life was about and what I wanted to, but I kind of wanted to be studying economics. A lot of the leaders, especially political leaders, study economy at that time. And yeah, was just in college, got invited to this retreat by this kind of campus ministry type of situation. And I had a powerful encounter with Jesus, with Jesus Christ, and kind of like my life changed ever since. So
Mm.
grew up kind of like very much connected to my faith. Like I knew the Bible, I knew the Catholic teaching, but nothing was real or alive.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of powerfully then when I was 17 just kind of changed everything. And I felt really a special calling to, I thought, good, what the church does and what the church is about the message of the gospel, right? These good news. And I wanted to become a professional helping the church communicate these.
Mm-hmm.
And
If
that's where
if I could jump
yeah,
in there real quick,
yeah, go ahead.
what was that experience? What did you go through that set you on this different path?
You know, it's hard to explain all of it, but I'll tell you the most important part.
Mm-hmm.
It's these realization that all that I knew was real. Like I was a really good student, right? I was a good student throughout. Like I was like, top of the class all the time. So I knew because I went to Catholic school, I knew all these religion stuff, right? But it was always like outside of me, it was always like something to study, the way that you study history or biology or whatever.
Mm.
And what this retreat changed in me is like, what if these things that I know, this story that has been told, this person that I knew about is real? Like it just never occurred to me that it was actually real. And if it's real,
Mm-hmm.
like it changed everything, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
everything from that moment on was completely different, right? Because nothing else mattered at that point. And you're young and idealist, and I just thought that I was invited into a great adventure. I thought
Mm.
that my life had meaning and purpose, that it was higher than anything that I've ever experienced, that I was placed in the world for something, a unique mission that has been given to me that I can only accomplish. So a sense of meaning and purpose and origin, and identity that I never had,
Wow.
before. So it was
Yeah.
just very exciting.
That's it seems like a lot. Like you're 17. Uh, I'm trying to think back to 17 when I was 17, besides being an idiot uh, and just having unrealistic expectations about the world. Like what was that like for you? Kind of seeing, you could say seeing that reality, seeing what is real and true uh, in such a powerful way.
Yeah. It was, I mean, I would say some of the things that were very, very important, right? That from that time was kind of like feeling that knowing that I was part of a bigger story than my story. And I think that, regardless on your faith, different people of faith have a little bit of that, but especially in the Catholic worldview, right? Once you understand that there's this cosmic story, right? This
Mm,
story from the beginning of times to now, and they'll
hmm.
continue, and that you play a role in it. When you're able to see that, it's just very exciting, right? And I think I was a pretty nerdy kid, and I remember, right, like right now, it's very common for people to love comics and superheroes and all that, right? We live in
Hmm.
the age of that dominates that, but that wasn't the case when I was growing up. But I was so attracted to those stories, right? The stories of heroic sacrifice, of saving something or someone. Like I
Mm,
always had that
hmm.
in me, and never knew where those feelings or that motivation came from. And obviously, when you see yourself in this bigger story, this bigger narrative, like you realize, oh, this is why I have these desires, right? This is why I want to do these great things because that's
Hmm.
what I was created for.
Yeah, no, I resonate with that as well because I was into comics before
They
it
were
was
cool.
is cool, I guess. Yeah, yeah, super dorky, but I really that resonates with me. Just that idea of giving up yourself, and I think there was a combination growing up because I, like you, grew up close to the faith because of my family, but I think that really resonated, and I always desired, like, yeah, when I see the superhero give all they've got, even their life for something that speaks to me. And I think subconsciously, until I had a similar kind of experience in college, subconsciously there was a connection with the faith that I didn't really realize. Oh, that's fun. My watch in the background there. Whoa.
Cat.
Yeah, no, I'm totally like a dog, like, oh, squirrel. And I think it resonated, and then it makes a lot of sense because we build up these mythos and we tell these stories. And I think part of the point of fiction is to help us see these fantastical stories or worlds or things, and be able to turn around and look at reality and see the wonder and mystery of reality. And I think that's also part of why this great book we have, the Bible, has different styles of storytelling. How do you teach someone a mystery that we can't really comprehend? Well, we can help you kind of see the headspace that you can get closer to understanding, or through these stories that you can relate to. You might not fully get it, but that's okay, because we'll internalize some parts of it, and those parts that we internalize then come out later, like giving myself up. Like, what does it mean to take on the sins of the world and die for everyone at all time, ever? What does that mean to me? I don't know, but sacrifice, giving up my desires and my wants and myself for someone else. Like, I can kind of relate a little bit more to that.
Yeah. No, and I think you're spot on, right? Like some of the most effective storytelling tools that we have or frameworks that we have are work because of who we are as human beings, right? Because we are created for these stories, right? We eat them up, I'll tell you something. I was reflecting about these the other day. So I'm a bit older than you guys, I think. So when I did that switch from studying economics to communications, so I decided that communications was going to be, that I was going to be a professional of that. But that was an exciting time. These are like the mid 90s, where we were just starting to have email and we were just starting to have the internet. So there was this amazing hope and talk about this like global village and what the world would be, right? And now fast forward and we live it now. We are in it. But like this was the very early, and for a person like me, right, it was just this excitement. But right in that time too, it was also like this very kind of postmodern idea that there's no story, that there's no purpose, and a little bit of that kind of grungy, kind of like the music was a little bit like despair.
Oh yeah.
But you see that even within that time from the 90s to now, what has really worked in our society in terms of like massive appeal, like again, Marvel movies, is the more basic story, right? The fight of good versus evil, the idea of coming together, Avengers Assemble, right? Doing something with others, living for a greater purpose. You see how that is really more, it's more effective because it's more basic, because it's rooted in who we are, all of us, not just the people of faith or Catholics. I think we all kind of like tend to respond well to those type of things.
Yeah, the storytelling aspect, for meaning is important, because I think if it kind of combats relativism, like there's no motivational force in a story if nothing matters, or if it could easily be one way or the other way. It doesn't matter who wins, who dies, who loses, who, it kind of like keeps you rooted in like, well, there's a reality to something at that base level. And I think we kind of have seen the way that there's a story happening on the other side of the wall right over here.
I heard good versus evil fight happening there.
Yeah, sort of saw that the experiment failed, or has been failing. The experiment of like, oh, there's nothing matters. There's no, groundedness. Like, what you see in a whole generation of people that are like, I'm connecting dots that are maybe a little far apart, but I'm thinking about like, you know, the world of millennials and the millennial workforce and stuff, and how something that came to my mind was that idea that like a lot of younger people are choosing careers and jobs not just based on like the money, but they're
Hmm.
looking for something that has meaning. Like they want to do something that has meaning or that's real.
Yeah,
Probably because we, you know, had that experiment of nothing mattering.
Right.
That wasn't good.
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Simon Sinek talks a little bit about that too. Whether he's right or not, it seems to make sense where, you know, millennials are the first generation where not, I don't know, not the first generation, but a recent generation where this over parenting, under discipline type of attitude was kind of taken on. And so you get these participation trophies. So you might have gotten last place, but you get a participation
Mhm.
trophy, and that devalues doing well. And he was even saying that can add shame, you know, or cause shame because somebody realizes they don't deserve a trophy. And so if nothing is meaningful, right, then you're going to look for meaning in everything. And then there's the imbalance of, okay, it doesn't matter if I'm going to be able to pay rent. I need to do something meaningful, uh, you know, at all times. And it's actually interesting because John and I think we're technically millennials. We like to think of ourselves as elder or like millennial Gen X split. Um, because we graduated before the 2008 crash. And I think the difference was we could go out and get a regular job. And so we're like, no, we need to
Yeah,
find a job that will pay us a living wage so that we can do work. And for us, it wasn't like, I am going to come out of college and get ultimate fulfillment in this job. You know, it's like,
that's
well,
right. It's still work is work and play is play, right?
yeah, yeah, you
I
know,
think that
and
kind of framework. Yeah.
yeah, very, very much so. And obviously there's a balance. And work was made for us. So there's something to reflect on there. But the fact is that we came out with a different mindset. And while we're busting our butts and working, we're also developing like our business and this other side that started heavily Catholic because it was the Catholic organizations that we were a part of. They
Hmm.
needed work, and we were there. We were students, and so we started doing that. And then we got a bank account, and then other non-Catholic saw our Catholic work and were like, "Hey, that's really good." Which is I think that's really unique because a lot of over the years, Catholic work has been not great because it's just the people who volunteer. And now, like what we do, and actually what you do, this is kind of a good segue as well, um, is like, hey, no, we should do this the best way. You know, we have what is real and true and beautiful. We have access to that. We see that. Let's also make sure that these other efforts are, you know, similar, that work like that instead of always being behind.
I think, and you guys are not paying me to be here and throwing compliments to you guys, but when I first engaged with you, it was precisely what you're saying there, Ryan, that I saw in the work that you did a couple things that were so exciting and so new, right? So I'm here. I heard about you from a friend, from Dan Rogers. You guys know him,
Mm-hmm.
and he said these guys are the best. You go check them out. And I go to your website and I saw that you guys had joy in what you were doing, and you kind of, it felt like you had purpose. I remember
Mm-hmm.
going to your about page and you had like, you scroll over and you were playful. Uh, but beyond the playfulness, it was just, it just looked so good. Like everything that you were doing looked so good, and I felt like this is why I made that decision when I was 17, because I thought, and I continue to think, that the work that we do in the church deserves the best, right? Like that, we should not only try our best, but get the best work out there for the church because the message is so important. Right? And people may disagree with that, but the
Mm-hmm.
point is here, I think, of um, of elevating your work, elevating the type of storytelling and execution to be able to tell these great story that has changed many lives, that will make a difference in people's lives. So that's, so since I was 17 to now, one way or another, I've been involved in either ministry, like actually doing work with people and sharing the story kind of like on a one-on-one basis, or now that I get
Mm-hmm.
to do it through communications and digital projects. Like, so we just launched last year a project about that. We launched this project called Real+True, or Real+True.
Mm-hmm.
And we were inspired by another project that some of you may know, the Bible Project.
Mm-hmm.
And I came across them about 7, 8 years ago, and I remember looking at the beautiful work these guys were doing. They were based in Portland. I ended up visiting them, and they invited me to see a little bit of their studio and their process. I talked to them. I love that they had these very, very tight mission statement. We believe the Bible is a unified story from beginning to end that leads to Jesus and has wisdom for the modern world. Man, I remember hearing that in their videos and seeing it on their website and talking to them about it. And I always said, like, man, like that's how I want to live. I want to have these focus of what it should be that I'm doing, and
Mm-hmm.
in a way that impacts the world, right? It's not only what I want to do, but also how that's going to impact the world. So, and 7, 8 years ago, like they started doing that, and they created this beautiful library of resources to help people read the Bible and understand the Bible. So last year, a couple of friends, Emily Mentok, and Edmund Mitchell and we got together, and it was the pandemic. Well, actually, this was before then, but anyways, during the pandemic, we got together and we talked about this project, the idea of doing something similar for the Catholic faith, and moving it away from concepts that you need to know or rules that you need to follow to discover what's beautiful and true in
Mm-hmm.
this message that is the gospel message, right? And we did it around the Catechism. So those that don't know, the Catechism is the official summary of what the church teaches. So it's not opinion. It's not what one church here or there teach, but it's actually what we believe, as Catholics. So it's
Mm-hmm.
so exciting to be able to bring that excellence, the storytelling, trying to connect these truths to our core identity as human beings, right? And try to connect with individuals at that level. So it's just been very, very exciting. But anyways, to close, to connect it to the first thing that I said, I see in the type of work you do the same kind of craft and effort and excellence, and the ability to connect with individuals because you are connecting at the most intimate level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
On what is real and true, like the name of your new initiative. Yeah. Well, and it seems like this is like in your DNA too. Were you a part of Revive, the parish with Dan
yeah,
Rogers? That whole thing, which is amazing as well. Um, and it seems like this is again like a part of your DNA of, hey, we got to get this really great content out there in a way that works for for the church. And I think that was a big thing of like, hey, we're gonna go free, or I think it's free, right?
yeah. It's so Revive Parishes. It's really Dan Rogers' brainchild, and he's been very passionate about education and helping parishes. And so parishes in the Catholic world, right, are churches, and that's the place where people come together to live out their faith, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
more than just a building. It's supposed to be people, right? Relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and people, journeying together, right? And and the state of our churches and our parishes, not just here in the U.S. but around the world, sometimes is not the greatest. And without those vibrant communities, those vibrant places where people come together and journey together, it's very hard to live out the faith. So we thought of what you were saying is, how do we bring excellence? How do we bring the tools that are available to us? How do we tell powerful stories and help parish leaders in this case
Mm-hmm.
up their game, so level up? That was always what Dan and the other founder, Tim Glemkowski, and I talked about. It is, how do we help them level up, right? How do we teach them basic skills that they're lacking to be able to serve better their communities? So we use like simple things for people like us that are in this kind of work,
Mm-hmm.
but that they have, and try to put it in a way that people can go through these courses. This is kind of course-based type of there's a free courses right on different topics that people can go through them and then learn and acquire a skill.
Mm-hmm.
It's on demand. So this is similar to Real+True, right? If you think of it, the old way has been, at least in the church, I have something to share, something to communicate. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to ask people to read it, and I'm going to go on a speakers circuit, right? Like to talk about the book, right? Or talk about what I know. That can only impact so many people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with digital communications, right? With digital efforts, I mean, you can change the game, right? You see this amazing outreach with these podcasts from Bible in a Year happening right now, right? You see the ability to go to places that you normally couldn't go. So on Real and True, for example, one of the things that I'm most proud is these are short videos, right? They're 6 minute videos about different parts of the Catechism or what we teach in our faith. And we got an email from this youth group in Romania that they were watching this video. And I thought that's brilliant. That's why we were doing these, because
Mm-hmm.
people are more likely to watch a video either together or individually and talk about it than to read a book, right? Like we're in this age where that's
Mm-hmm.
the one of the most effective ways of communicating. You guys know these because you're a video studio company. And so
Mm-hmm.
trying to get the church in our outreach and our ministries to see that advantage and do it in a high quality way.
Yeah, well, and I think the interesting part of Real and True and Revive and all these efforts is there's great people and great hearts all across the church, and a lot of times organizationally, somebody might be in a position for 20 years or 30 years. So when communication changes, there's not a ready skill set that's available there. So to be able to have a resource that can help them with that, I think is genius. And we're never going to get away from it's not nepotism by definition, but it's that idea of like, oh, this person's good, they should do this role. Well, do they have any skill? No, but they're good, and we want to support them. One of the
Sometimes it's not even they're good. They're very nice people.
yeah, they're a person who will come and do this thing. And maybe like one of the I don't know, most problematic feedback I've ever received or we've ever received was doing a project with a great Catholic organization, and I think the people managing the project just didn't really have the vision or understanding of what they were doing, and
Mm-hmm.
they were more or less literally, they felt like they were just throwing us a bone, like, oh yeah, let's just hire them and they can do some work. And then it's kind of that rolling scope of, okay, well, we want more, we want more, we want more. And then you talk about scope and you're like, well, it's outside of scope, we can do that, let's up the scope. And then at some point there was a discussion of, okay, we're going to stop the project, we're good here, but we really feel like this was really good for your families. So, that's why we think this was a good thing. And professionally, I was like, oh no, that was a terrible choice. Like, if that's what you're doing with that money. And then personally too, it's like, okay, well, that's a nice sentiment, but again, personally and professionally, that's not a great perspective to have on anything. Like, that's not a great business decision, and it could have been done differently. And I think you can run into that a lot. And so having resources, and we need this for priests too. So my buddy, Father Scott Jablonski out here, is in charge of priestly formation. And one thing that he's always said is, we just kind of get thrown to the wolves when we come out of seminary, like, okay, run a multi-million-dollar business. And they don't have a lot of experience in that. And
Yeah.
certainly being an associate pastor can help a little bit, but just with our priest shortage, you're an associate for 1 year and then you're a pastor again.
Yeah.
So you apprentice for 1 year with your business, and then you go run a multi-million-dollar company um, with people who are like, okay, Father, we've done it this way for many years, and you're coming in. Your board is not a um, board of the best people in the industry. Your board is a people of great community members who might have been there for a while. So you're also dealing with that dynamic. So I think there's just a lot of challenges, and the work that you're doing. It makes my heart just so full to see that good work done well, and providing those resources to our organizations that, at the end of the day, the battle is won, but it's our job to move the needle as much as we can. And I think efforts like what you're doing can really move the needle.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. One of the things that I've seen working in the church, and it's possible that it's also in other nonprofit kind of work outside of just the Catholic Church, but sometimes is not knowing what good looks like. You know,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's that the standards have been or are so low and have been for so long that people have these very low expectations on what church experience or church communications or should look like. So when
Mm-hmm.
people are like, yeah, they just you know like almost like nothing good is going to come from the diocese, right? So I work in an archdiocese, and for those that do not know, like the dioceses are the way that the Catholic Church is organized. So the territorial, it's a territory, and then that's called a diocese, and then there's a bishop, in theory a successor of the apostles, right, of the 12 apostles of Jesus, all the way back, that he's like the shepherd of that territory, right? So I work for the successor of the 12 apostles, an
Mm-hmm.
archbishop and an archdiocese. And when I arrived there, so I've been there for quite a while, the last 4 years as communications director, you could see that things weren't as professional, weren't that good. Good people, right, working there,
Mm-hmm.
and but not that drive, that urgency, and but also not knowing what good looks like. So I I feel very, very grateful and blessed that within our team, like my bishop, my boss, has given me a lot of resources to bring really
Mm-hmm.
good people and transform our department of communications to be very professional what we do, so we could elevate the game, and by doing so, showing our diocese, but also other dioceses, what you could actually do,
Mm-hmm.
right, for these mission that is so important to all of us, right? And and maybe one more thing that I would like to share with you guys is when you think of communications, right, and kind of like the work that I do, marketing. We don't use the word marketing in churches, but communication and marketing are two functions, right, that we
Mm-hmm.
perform. Um, is that it's not meant to support the mission. It's not meant to be like, okay, you have HR, and then you have finances, and you have here technology. But the way that we think of in the Archdiocese of Detroit is that communications is part of the mission.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way that we present ourselves to others, right? In a company, communications is how you interact with your, brand, and communications. Think of it as who you are in the minds of the people that you're trying to serve, right? So that is actually what we do, our mission, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
how do people from the outside perceive us? How do we ourselves perceive us? How do we think about what the church is? What stories do we tell? What type of inspiration, excitement can we bring?
Mm-hmm.
And we, we're fighting for limited attention, right? Limited time. Like people are getting all these messages from all over the place, and unless
Mm-hmm.
our messages are of certain quality, they're gonna get drowned. They're not gonna be memorable. People aren't gonna pay attention to them because all these
Mm-hmm.
companies are investing millions in content, right? In putting out
Mm-hmm.
their messages, putting out their mission, um, converting people into loyalists, right, of their product or service or brand. And we need to enter that field, right? Pope Benedict would call it the digital continent, and be missionaries there with the type of content that captures people's imaginations. Uh, Maybe one last thing is
Mm-hmm.
like I just went to Europe last year, and I've been there a few times. And you look at these cathedrals, right, and the work of art that they've done, and it elevates your spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just they're so beautiful that there's no other emotion than awe and amazement, and just like lifts you up. And we have to do the same in the digital content. We need to have people watch one of those videos and lift up their
Mm-hmm.
spirits, and capture their imaginations, and lead them to this journey of finding who they are and what they were made for.
That, yeah, I love that too, because that's something that Catholics really understand and resonate with, to a large degree, of like, why do we gild things? Why do we put gold on things? Why do we build them tall so you can see them? Why do we have loud bells? It's so that it, firstly, literally elevates your eyes, and then can elevate your heart as well to this beauty that is real and true. But then thinking of our marketing efforts, like yeah, that is core to the mission. And so what does that mean? Because, and people don't like the word evangelization in maybe more secular
Mm-hmm.
worlds, but that's a part of the mission. And that's what marketing is. Marketing is evangelization. But evangelization is just, typically a religious term that's used. But um, thinking about gilding our spaces, we're going to spend millions of dollars and we're going to redo the murals and this, and it's going to be there for years to come. I think part of the challenge then is like, okay, well, just slap some digital up. I know somebody who
Yeah.
who can do some video, or who can do some web work, and so they'll just be good enough. But it's interesting because you turn that around and you're like, okay, well, I also know someone who could maybe do some window work or some mural work, but you're bringing in somebody from Italy to make this grand, beautiful thing. Like, let's have that same mindset. The budgets are going to be different, but let's have that same mindset where our digital, our video, our
Yeah.
communications are a fundamental part of the mission, like our spaces. So,
Yeah.
we have to make sure that it elevates.
Yeah, if you think of it, like some of the beautiful
Some
cathedrals in Europe, it took forever to be built, right? Like these were generations that were investing into this space that was going to help people encounter Jesus, right? In the case of our faith, right?
Right.
Find meaning of their lives. Like there was this commitment to the mission that was carried out over time, and it required an investment of believing that this was effectively going to advance his mission. But this is done, like, let me just put it like this is evangelization is done all the time with all the brands, right? Like you guys are from Wisconsin, right? So Harley Davidson. I
Mm-hmm.
always think of like when started at the Archdiocese of Detroit, I always use that as a lifestyle brand, right? It's not just a
Mm-hmm.
motorcycle you're buying. You're buying into these lifestyle, into these um, way of thinking, almost way of acting
Mm-hmm.
that they built, and they've spent so much money to try to create that for you so you can enter in if it connects with you, right? So they attract people that are connected to that lifestyle, and then they
Mm-hmm.
buy the product. The church is not that different in that sense, right? We have a message, we have a way of life that we want to invite people into it. How much are we willing to invest on sharing that with others?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's a level of complexity that is challenging with church marketing communications, because I think we also know in our own personal spiritual lives and in the challenges that we're facing day to day that there's a side of like digital and media that is unhealthy, that we want to be grounded in personal relationships, and we want to take time without those distractions, and meditate on a physical mural on a wall. And we know that, and I wonder, I guess I don't have a conclusion on it, but I wonder if that bleeds into the ideas that people have about using the media, um,
Hmm.
and sort of like, well, we need to, because everything in life, um, anything that we have can be twisted and can be used in the wrong way. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
before that, I often have conversations with people about music who are like, "Oh, this kind of music isn't good for a church setting and for a mass or whatever." I'm like, "Did you know that using, seventh chords used to be pretty scandalous in the like um
Using what chords? I
the,
lost you. I don't know
the
if that was just me.
major thirds and seventh chords, like
Oh,
it
wow.
that used to be scandalous.
Yeah,
Mass,
sure.
like
Yeah.
that's like
Yeah.
that's bar music, that's whatever. So it's tricky. There's like a lot of stuff to juggle in there.
Yeah.
And then also I also sort of run in, and I'm curious, I'd love to hear from you, Edmundo, on how you tackle this too, because it's also, we know the reality that like it's not just another thing. It's not just another brand amidst brands that we want to like compete with
Hmm.
them and compete for attention. Like it is the thing. It is the only thing. It is the most important thing. And so I think, again, there too, maybe that's the pitfall. People are like, well, it's the most important thing. It's not like that. So we don't need to do what they're doing. But it's like, well, we kind of got to enter the space to get some attention. And then hopefully you can eventually convert people to have them realize those realities.
Yeah,
anyway.
I think the ancient world thought differently, right? Like, I mean, even think about the Old Testament. There's this beautiful passage, one of my favorite ones, where, you know, there about this offering, right? It's I'm pretty sure it's King David, saying, "I'm going to put all this money from my personal treasure, from the treasure of our people, but from my personal treasure to build the temple, right? This place where God's presence was going to be manifest, right? The dwelling of God on earth, right?" And he calls out and does that external kind of like saying, "I'm going to do these because I believe in these," and then everybody else joins in this effort, right? So you read in that scripture verses that everybody came in, and you could see that in different expressions. But the idea of understanding that this is the most important thing that we do, that this is the most beautiful message that exists, and it's worth our effort and attention and financial resources. About what you're saying about digital versus in person. For me, I think, and I'm when I talk about real and true just for a moment, how we think about it, but the true evangelization, true communication of the gospel message needs to lead to Christ, to an encounter with a person, right? So when it's done well, similar as a church, is not supposed to just leave you like, oh, that's a cool building, right? But it's supposed to lead you into a deeper reality, right? And then that reality is one of communion with Christ, right? Like relationship, friendship with someone and with others, right? So I think that the role of digital communications is, it's on like the top of the funnel, if you will, right? Is of capturing people's attention and imagination, but leading them into the deeper mystery, right? The mystery of relationship with someone and with others, because that's what our faith is about, right? You cannot just have it all in your head. You need to enter into communion with others, so when we do evangelization well, and that's our hope with Real and True, it touches people when they are curious about the big questions in life and leads them into this path of communion, right? Like that it's not the end solution. It's not like you do this, you watch this, done. But it's going to lead you into this deeper discovery of who you are and what you were made of, and this encounter with this one that created you and loves you. So that's where I think that digital communications plays that role, is that encountering people where they are, bringing this message to them, inspiring them, elevating their spirit, and leading them to where they ultimately need to get to. So it's fishing, right? I mean, that's what we were supposed to do, fishing.
Well, and meeting them where they are, you just kind of put the image in my mind of like, it would be like the comparison of, well, don't go preach in that neighborhood because that neighborhood, has these other things in it, and that was what the Pharisees were always accusing Jesus of, is like, well, he goes and hangs out with
the sinners,
these people, like,
right.
So it's that discussion about like, should you enter a space to share a message? Is the space problematic? Well, no, there's just people that hang out there. You're saying like, just be where they are. Like that's the thing. Is like, you got to be where they are. So
and people need to hear this message. I'll tell you one quick thing here. This happened many years ago, so this is at the beginning of Facebook. So things have gotten ugly, but when it started, it was full of hope and connecting people. And back in the day, I was actually working for a publisher, The Word Among Us, and I pitched to them like, hey, there's this thing called Facebook. Like, could we do something with one of our books, right? And this book was about Lent and the practices of Lent, of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. And we said, could we do something around prayer, right? And they were like, yeah, sure. Like, as long as you don't get distracted with your main job, go ahead and do it. So here I am. I'm more of a I'm more strategic or more like here's a plan versus an executor. But here I am with a camera DSLR recording these videos, and we put together what at that time was the largest um, Bible study in the world, right? Like, so we launched it on Facebook, and every week we were posting a video on reflection and engaging with people, and it was huge. I mean, at that time, this is early days of the of social media. But the one thing that I'll never forget is this comment from this one person. So this is a real person. This is not just like something. It's someone that posted and said, "I've never heard this message shared with me. This is the first time that I've heard that God loves me. Thank you so much for posting this."
Wow.
And it just blew me away. I don't know where he was from. Like I've never met this person, but the fact that through these videos, this person was entering to this other reality, and I was, through my efforts, the bridge to that. Like it just filled my heart. It confirmed my vocation. This is why I'm doing it. This is the only thing fruit that comes out of it. I've done my job. So I think that we shouldn't lose hope on social media or on online communications, digital communications. We need to bring hope and excellence and elevate spirits there, because that's where people are at. And then eventually, though, if it's everything is done well, it should lead them into the more deeper, communion that is what we're truly designed for.
Well, and something you guys are doing too with Real and True and Revive and your AOD efforts that's so awesome and refreshing is, dude, my lighting right now, like I have a window right here. I'm just getting burned up by the sun here.
I thought you had a lightsaber.
Yes. I love it. That's so refreshing is you're meeting the medium where it's at, and you're doing it really, really well. Like I was watching through some of the Real and True videos that are on the website, and it's like the entertaining things that vloggers try to put out there, but it's good content and true content. And it was funny because my first thought when I started watching, I was like, oh, I'd love this on TikTok. I don't know if you guys are there, but just the style and the message, I was like, because that's maybe the only social media app that I'm on regularly. Like I got the bug. I get comedians and magicians, and I get some like Catholic comedians too, like doing just crazy goofy stuff, which is really great. But again, you're elevating what you're doing. You're meeting the media where it's at. You're and pushing the medium too, and that's kind of, I think, John's point of which we say in the world, but not of the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're there. We're in those spaces. We're not letting them drive us or become the core, the reason why we do it. But we're using those tools and being in those worlds and bringing, hopefully, a little bit of light.
I'll tell you the biggest compliment we've gotten with Real+True. My son, my 15-year-old son, watched a video and said, "Dad, that looks just like Vox Media explainer videos." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yes, that's exactly what we went for. Yes, thank you."
They're so
But to
good.
be
Yeah.
able to match that quality for what we think it's a better message, right? This is our first video was about why we have this desire of making maps. Why are we so obsessed with map making? And then we lead them at the end. I'm spoiling it for you, but at the end, it flips the question and says, what is the heavens? Like the first maps were of heaven, of the stars. They weren't of the earth, they were of the stars. What is the heavens had a map for us. And it's this idea that there's actually a plan for your life, right? And he watched it and he was like, that just looks like Vox Media. And I just like, man, like, thank you. This is exactly what we wanted.
Yeah, the message is coming in the way that it needs to. It's matching the quality of the context or the importance of the context. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so
you
go watch them, guys. Like if you're watching this video, like I think you're gonna be excited about them, and yeah, I would love to hear your feedback. So you could always leave your feedback there on YouTube or on social media where you find them.
There we go. Yeah, and we'll do that plug now. I put the website right here. I put it in the chats, realtrue.org. Make sure you just hit all the things, subscribe, like, hit the bell. That's all helpful because we're
Yeah.
on those tools. So you gotta function in those tools. You did. So you mentioned your son and a question or your child. I don't know if it was
My son, yeah.
your son. Um, when you said earlier you have an adult now, you have an 18-year-old, and then you said you had your experience when you were 17. I think about this constantly. Like for me, I had an experience. I had maybe kind of two experiences just growing up Catholic. It's kind of like this is a lot of the non-radical stories, non-radical conversion or reversion stories of grew up Catholic. Faith was part of my life. But then it wasn't until a confirmation retreat that I was like, ooh, this Jesus thing, there's something here. But then I kind of put it aside. And then it wasn't until college and I got involved at the University Catholic Center here, St. Paul, which they just built a huge, beautiful building. And some people are like, why spend all that money? And then you hear stories regularly about people just walking in like, this is beautiful. What is this space? And be like,
There you
well,
go.
this is a Catholic church. Like, who are you? What's your name? Let's have a relationship, you know? So I had another experience in college that really convicted me and set me down this path, a reversion, as it were. So I'm always thinking of like, what's that going to be for the kids? Because like now my kids probably experience the faith at an elevated level. Try to teach that personal relationship. Try to focus on that. I don't know as kids that they have that connection until something happens and they do have that realization. But at least you can fake it till you make it, right? So they can practice these things, practice certain steps or modes of prayer and scriptural reflection and just virtuous living that hopefully get them close enough to then themselves be able to make that next important leap or step. So 18-year-old, you've got some older children. How do you think about that? Like, are you like, yeah, go to that retreat, go to World Youth Day? Like, you're just trying to get them close and just trying to get them that experience, or what do you know?
I'll say maybe two, three things, but back when I was doing ministry, we had this saying that God does not have grandchildren. God only has children. This idea that faith is a personal response, right? Like your
Mm,
parents cannot make that response for you, right? You at one point in your life are going to have to make a decision about these. Part of our job as parents, right, and as just as people of faith is to present that to the faith to others, right? Introduce them to that, but the response needs to be from them individually. Now, in fact, our last video for Real+True speaks about faith, right, as a response. It's a response
mm,
to God, so God always initiates it. So if you think about that, like should give parents peace, right? That God is more interested than I am of them entering into this relationship with him, right? Like, so he's a lot more interested. He loves them more than I love them, and I know that um, he will reach out to them. So I need to prepare them for that response and hearing him. I see in my children different. Uh, so responding to faith is a response, and it has to do with relationship, right? And some of my
right.
children are more kind of like prone to trust people. Therefore, when they translate that to God, right, they have less. Like it just kind of makes sense, and they're gonna respond to that invitation. Where
Mm-hmm.
one of my sons doesn't have that, just because he doesn't have it with anything. He's a lot more
Mm-hmm.
skeptical and analytical and questions things. And I could see that he does struggle a lot more with his faith. So my part is to encourage him, and I always tell him like, look, go find the answers to the questions that you have. I promise you there is an answer for those
Mm-hmm.
things.
Mm-hmm.
And telling him that he'll have to find those answers on his own, right? I mean, I set up different things for him, but this idea that if he continues to search, he'll get there. Um, so that's a little bit of at a high level, but we pray with them, and you could see that that's helpful to them to hear, so they can hear parents talk about their faith and their own journey and what they see.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that the witness of the parents, and then the freedom that comes from knowing that God wants them more than you want them to be with God, like it's a bit freeing. We're blessed with really good kids. The four of them are good kids. They love people. They have good kind of good moral compass. So I'm hoping that their own faith journey leads them there. I do tell them the story. We had this funny thing. Maybe I'm telling too much, but because when I turned 17 is when I had this powerful experience. So now we call it the walkabout. So I've done it with my first child, and I'm going to do it with my second child, to try to kind of tell them my own personal story, so they see the importance that faith had in who I am, and that I'm so grateful for having that encounter at such a young age. But I cannot assume that they're going to have the same experience at the same age, right? Like it's going to be up to them and their own journey.
I think it's interesting. There's many different ways to go after it, but I'm always intrigued by, how am I going to phrase this? Okay, so the real and true example you gave about the maps, it was really cool. I actually did see that one, loved it. The video was very well done. I was, locked in the whole time. Because the world and the predominant non-Christian culture is often against us, against the church. When you are blatantly coming from the church, or the church's view, the church's standpoint, there are people that you will lose in the discussion immediately right then, because they've been trained to put up a wall right then. And like I said, there's many ways to go at this. There's value in, just presenting the gospel as the gospel from the church, from that view. But I'm always very intrigued by the messages that come in a sort of side door, and get around the walls that people put up, that start discussing things that connect to them. Because it was from your point about encouraging your son or your children to search for the answers that they seek, because there's so many people that don't do that. Well, I've had a lot of talk about people who, you bring a 5th grade level of catechesis in your own faith, and that's where you stop for a lot of people. And then you go into your adulthood, and then you read about quantum physics, and then you read about, other religions, and you read about, read from Nietzsche, and you read from and then you're like, well, these things right here, these make more sense. It's like, it's so hard to have discussions with people. It's like, yeah, but you're putting that up against, you're putting that book up against a 5th grader.
Yes.
Why don't you go ahead and don't put those walls up, and seek to learn more.
Yeah.
Your kids are reading more difficult books than my kids right now.
My kids aren't doing it yet.
Yeah, John, I think you bring up a very good point, and I think that the question that I would pose for us, right, not so much for the people that we're hoping to share this message with, would be: do we believe that our faith is reasonable or not? Because if we believe ourselves that our faith is reasonable, that it's not unreasonable, that you actually, if you sit down and think about it, it will make sense. If you believe that, then you're better prepared to help others with that. If the way that you were brought up, the way that you approach your own faith is thinking that it's unreasonable, I just need to believe it, I just need to kind of I guess this is what I do, and I better not question it because I may not find good answers. Then I think you communicate that to others, right? But if you know where you stand, and if you understand that our faith is reasonable, you can approach that conversation in a different way, assuming, or not assuming, but hoping that the other person is actually seeking truth, right? If they are not, it's not going to go anywhere. Not because of you not being able to communicate your faith, but just because the person is not willing to be honest intellectually. So that's important, right? Because there's a wealth of ways, of teachings or wisdom on how to go about just understanding our faith from a reasonable perspective. And that's the natural part. But then there's the supernatural part, right? There is the knowing that God can make himself known to others that bypasses our rational part. So there's that element too, that there's got to, something else needs to happen. But I'll say the most effective thing for me was when what happened to me. I was a very skeptical person when I was 17, a little bit like my son, who is struggling a bit with some of these questions. But I went to this retreat, and what I couldn't deny is that these people had a joy and a love for one another that I did not have in my life, and I wanted it. Like, no matter what I thought about it, there was something they had that I couldn't explain, that it was different. So this is, I think, goes to what you see in the Bible, what Jesus tells, that they'll know they're my disciples by the way they love one another, right? Like, I think our witness becomes powerful when we truly act the way that we believe, when we truly love people, when we're generous to the point that people don't understand it, why, when we give ourselves, when we become those heroes that we were talking at the very beginning, when we become those heroes, right, to others, then people believe, right? So I think that that's not on the rational plane, but it is on the relationship, experiencing the love, experiencing the joy. And if they see that, Pope Francis is big on to, got to be more joyful, guys. Otherwise, nobody's gonna, we lose all of our cred.
Yeah, we have a good friend too, who I think about a lot, and he's talked about how he struggles with his faith, but just being around that man, I feel like you experience the love of God and the love of God through this person. And I often think of that, and that's maybe the highest praise I've ever received. Like once is the question of like, you're so joyful. Why are you so joyful? And I'm very combative in discussion. Like I love to get critical and logical and discuss. So like in a discourse like that, I'm often not super charitable, something I know about myself and try to work with. But there's the other side where, you know, when I am close to God, I feel like I do a better job of getting out of the way and just being a joyful person, and joy as in like capital J, not happiness, but joy, like true love. And somebody, a secular client of mine, said that, and I was just blown away, and like, I got goosebumps. I was like, whoa, God, like like this is how do we do more of this? And that resonates, because kind of like you're saying, there's the intellectual, like we can understand God exists on an intellectual level, but yeah, there is that mystery, there is that element of faith that we're even given it, right? We're given faith, and we turn away from it. And so I always ruminate with the kids, like, where are they at? And I think was something you said is something I reflect upon, but need to do more of, is that idea of um, being real with them and sharing your own faith journey. Like that's probably something I haven't done enough of like, hey guys, you see me pray, you see me go do this, I lead prayer. I'm struggling right now. I don't feel a lot of consolation. I don't feel a lot of love, but I think that might be because of this, because I'm so caught up in this other thing, and I'm working towards this work thing, and I'm not focusing on my faith and focusing, my heart on Christ. And having them see that reality, I think might be the best chance that they have. And I love that quote. I've never heard that, of God doesn't have grandchildren, he only has children. Like, oof, man, there's a lot there.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder than making car commercials.
No kidding. It's more fun too. I think there's this awesome quote from Henry Nouwen, so this spiritual writer, that I just remember reading it, and it's always been part of the way that I think, that the most intimate thing that we have is the most universal thing, right? Like when we're able to speak to the heart, right? Like heart speaks to heart, right? From St. John Henry Newman, right? Like this idea that when we are able to connect at the deepest level, it's the most universal level, because we're all created by God, right? We're all part of the same family. So for you guys and us and everybody that is in kind of media, communications, storytelling, marketing, I mean, we're all trying to hit those intimate things, right? Intimate messages, because those are the universal ones. That's where people are gonna respond to whatever we're offering, right? So, and it's because of that shared reality of we're all created for by God, and our destiny is God, you know.
Mm-hmm. So we've been talking for about a little over an hour. You've kind of helped me to realize that in many cases we need to have longer conversations. So I'm now ruminating on like happy hour after dark, but that's the wrong connotation. But I would love, like, I feel like we're getting to a point now where we can really start digging in, but we typically start wrapping it up now. Um, so thank you so much for the conversation. And if you are interested, whenever this comes, whenever we figure out the best way to do this, I'd love to have you on for a much longer conversation, mostly so that I could just pick your brain and get the wisdom from you that we're getting out of you right now.
I would love that. Maybe that's like a cameo on your Christmas video one of these days, you know.
Oh my gosh, you say that, and we're gonna make that call this year. That would be amazing. This is how things happen too. Just ruminating on ideas, and like that would be really fun. People who are friends or we've worked with, or think could be really great in the video. We should totally bring them in this year. Write that down, John. Or Luke? Somebody write that down. That would be so much fun.
I got it.
Yeah. No, I don't believe you. So as much as I hate to cut the conversation off, I want to respect everybody's time, especially yours, Edmundo. And now we're going to do something that we do every week.
The truth is a lie.
I'm on this janky connection. I hope that all played for everyone. I played
Yeah,
it twice on accident. It's now time for Two Truths and a Lie. Edmundo has prepared, I believe, right?
Yes.
I think the format of our earlier one of our connecting emails now has that in there, just to give people a heads up. Sometimes it's fun. We don't give them a heads up, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do?" So we'll just have you do this. John and I will guess, and everyone who's watching can guess as well. If you're listening as the podcast, so this gets turned into a podcast eventually as well. You can totally throw your comments in, or send us your answers, or get it right. We'll send you some swag. I don't have any of our happy hour swag here, but oh no, can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear somebody. Can you see me? Okay.
Yeah,
I froze. Right now I'm tethering on my wife's phone. Like, this is my internet connection right here. I'm trying to use her data. So
It's
shout
frightening
at me if there's a problem.
and exciting.
Isn't that like the technology we have, like from our screaming like meow, like telephone modems, all the way to I can be wherever and use the internet. It's amazing and frightening.
Well, I mean, and you didn't even go that far back in technology, because right before that, we picked up a can, and there was a woman sitting there on the other side. Said, well, I can connect your can to another can, and then we can.
My kids still do creative things and entertain themselves, but like I love telling my kids stories about things that we used to do. Like, we would sleep in our closets. We'd clear out our closets, put our sleeping bags in there and sleep in there. And then we would figure out how to run a string with a can from closet to closet so that you could actually talk. Like, we were creating our own communication systems while we were doing this separate sleepover type thing. Like,
hey, watch it. In the unit 4 of Real+True, we actually use that image of like connection of faith.
Nice.
So you guys got to watch it.
Yeah. Awesome. Way to bring it home. All right. So you guys heard the audio. We're going to play the game. Edmundo's got 2 truths, 1 lie. He's going to tell us these stories in any order he would like, and we're going to guess what's the lie. This is a way to just learn a little bit more about Edmundo and maybe hear some cool story where he, I don't know, met Adam Sandler. We had that last week, actually. So
nice.
You'll have to pick a different celebrity.
Okay, so I'm going to cheat a bit because I wrote them, so I'm going to read them to try to keep
that's great. Yeah.
a straight face. The first one, my grandparents were political refugees that came to Mexico escaping Spanish persecution. Number 2, I'm a safe driver, but I've crashed my car 12 times, give or take.
Oh my gosh.
My third statement, my first bungee jump was when I was 15 during a spring break trip in South Padre Island, Texas.
Give me that third one again. I'm writing these down because I have trouble
My
remembering.
first bungee jump was when I was 15 years old during a spring break trip in South Padre Island, Texas.
Wow. See, you said you weren't good, but these are good. Like nothing stands out right away as clearly not true. Also, that was a good mix.
Yeah, I love it when people don't prepare and they're like, okay, number 1, my name is Edmundo. Number 2, I'm the communications director in Detroit. And number 3, and you're like,
Yeah.
I think I know where this is going.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead, John? You guess first.
Okay. Well, Emily guessed it too. Yeah, that second one. I mean, there's a logical inconsistency, logical fallacy in the statement in itself. I'm a safe driver, but I don't know your definition of safe driver, but let's see. Man, I don't know about your
parents are political refugees. Yeah, from you said parents, right? Political refugees from Spain. Grandparents. Okay. And then the third one, first bungee jump at 15, spring break in South something, Texas.
Man, they're good. These are good. Okay, I'm gonna go with the bungee jump. I don't know why. I don't have a logical conclusion for that one. I'm just going with it.
You know, we were talking about this yesterday about soliciting reviews from former clients or current clients on projects that are completed, and a way to incentivize it is saying, hey, when you do that, we will donate money to a nonprofit that we've selected for this quarter. I wonder if there's a way we could do that with this too, like where if one of us gets right, we donate a little bit money, and people who get right in the chat, we could donate some money. That'd be a fun way to raise the stakes on this, because at this point we're just like, I don't know, A, B, or C, but then we actually do something good.
I'm taking it seriously. I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. For me, I need to raise the stakes. So you and Emily said 2, crashed your car 12 times, safe driver.
No, I'm going with number 3, the bungee.
Oh, sorry, you pulled an audible while I wasn't listening. I was writing. So you're 3, Emily's 2. Let's see. So number 2 kind of resonates because I've been in 2 or 3 accidents, and I'm a very safe driver. I've only gotten 1 ticket, and this was in college, and I was driving my friend's car in northern Wisconsin and had no idea of the speed limit. And I was like, apparently didn't really know speed limits in general. And so I was driving
in the US?
I don't know. we don't have as fast of speed limits as you guys do. We just got 70. Within the last 3 years, we just got 70 in the States. So when we're over here driving 70, we're like, or 75, that's the speed limit. We're like, does the car even go that fast?
That's like.
So I was probably driving
like 85, right?
You go ahead.
My family's in South Dakota.
Yeah. Well, when it's just flat and straight, it doesn't really matter. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, the speed limit. So I was probably going 17 over or something, because I was like, I don't know, it's probably 65. So I was going 68 or something like that, 67. Only time I've ever gotten a ticket. So number 2 kind of resonates with me. 12 seems a bit excessive though. So that's hard. Like I could see a few. John picked number 3. I do feel like I might have heard the story about your grandparents before. That would be a great lie though. That's
The
the
most
way
serious
to
one, yeah.
yeah, that's the way
Go.
to trick us. Who was that? There was somebody else who came on and was talking about the emigration of their grandparents, and we're like, I don't know, that seems legit, and that was the lie. That's always a good way to lie because you're like, I don't know, sounds right. So from Spain, I'm gonna go with number 3 as well because I could buy number 2. And your first bungee jump at 15, maybe it was 17, and maybe it wasn't spring break in Texas. Maybe it was somewhere else.
Or
That's
maybe it
the way to
wasn't his
trick the
first,
system.
just
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
he wasn't attached. I don't know. It was like
it was skydiving. Yeah. Not bungee jumping. All right.
I can fly, guys. I sorry. I just need to come clean with you guys.
You heard it here first. Yeah. So which one? What's the lie?
Good. So the lie is the one about the grandparents.
Oh, he did it to us.
We're just like any type of family or like ethnic heritage. We're like, yep, buy it.
So one of my grandfather, he was Italian and came, but he wasn't a political refugee or anything. So there was a little bit of truth there.
Nice.
But I think he came on a political kind of mission or something. Anyways, but yeah, the other 2 are true.
Yeah, you got to tell us both of those. You've crashed a car 12 times, but you'd say you're a safe driver. Obviously, you get off. It's not your fault.
So I would say I'm a safer driver now. I think I've only got a ticket in the U.S. since I lived in the U.S. But I don't know, for some reason crashes happen to me, and it's not my fault, right? Like basic stuff.
Sure.
And I started driving very early, and in Mexico it's kind of chaotic, but I started driving when I was 13, and I was driving and someone just ran a stop sign and I just hit them, and that started my career. And my second one was it was like a rainy day, and there was some sand and oil in the highway, and just couldn't stop, and then we hit a bunch of people, and I mean it's just been like that, like very fluky things.
Wait, what were you doing that there was sand and oil on the highway? Was there banana peels as well?
There you go, Mario Kart. I'm a driver. I compete in the Mario Kart.
Yeah, somebody's shooting them behind them.
Yeah. I was avoiding a shell coming my way.
Nice. Yeah.
I just lost my anyways, yeah. But I think since I've been here in the US, I've been pretty good and trying to keep safe. So, but yeah. And then
you just got to get bigger vehicles. You just we drive a Ford Transit, a 15 passenger.
Oh, nice.
I feel like I'm in a bus when I'm in that, and I'm like, someone's going to get out of our way. Otherwise, hopefully they're okay.
Yeah, you want a bigger vehicle, and you want your vehicle to be older than the one next to you.
Yes, more metal.
You're like, hey, you're like, there's a lot less concern I have about getting little dents and scrapes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's your problem, not mine. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the first one, it's crazy to think about that, because now I have a 15-year-old, and I cannot imagine letting my 15-year-old go on spring break to a different country. So we lived in Mexico, and then for my 15-year-old to find a way to sign the forms to allow them to do the bungee jump. it's just
yes,
pretty crazy.
to need their parents' signature.
And what I didn't say that is that I am actually afraid of heights. So it was a pretty stupid thing to do, of going on a bungee jump on my own when I was 15 without my parents.
I'm terrified of heights as well, but I would love to do that. I've always wanted to skydive as well, but I don't know. Maybe driving a car is more dangerous than skydiving, but I don't know. I don't know if I'd have to sign away my life insurance or something. Like
You probably
whenever
don't.
I die, if I die early, I'd love my family to still get my life insurance. That would be
I
cool.
feel
Exactly.
like it's got to be pretty equal to like bungee jumping, you know.
Well, it's probably better than driving a car, honestly. It's like the whole idea
Yeah.
of like
Yeah.
if you
Especially if
die,
you crashed 12 times.
if you crash 12 times, dude, that's nuts. John's dad just has all these great, little nuggets of wisdom that I love hearing. And one of them is like, if you die tomorrow, it'll probably be in a car accident, or, the next day, a car accident, or, statistically, it's probably like heart disease, car accident, heart disease, or whatever.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
that, in relation to flying, because a lot
exactly.
of people are afraid of flying. So I wonder where bungee would be in there, maybe 30 days.
I'll tell you what's so scary. So we were driving, so I was doing ministry, and we were in one of those huge 12, 15 passenger vans
Hmm.
with a trailer. It was a bunch of us going on mission, and we were driving from Minnesota to the East Coast, and we were driving through Wisconsin. And you know how when it starts freezing, the things, you start seeing like the snow kind of like moving around because you have like the wind and then like
Some of the
the
blowing.
powder.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yep.
powder is there, and I
Yep.
could just see that we were going to crash, and this thing is just like hit something, and the whole thing starts spinning on
Oh,
94 on the
with a
highway
trailer.
with the trailer. The trailer
What?
snaps, and then we end up in the median,
Wow.
and by God's grace,
Wow.
this median was huge, and instead of going to the other side of the highway, the trees, little trees, slowed us down. So they slowed the spinning, and then we were able to end in the middle of the
Wow.
two lanes. So, and I just knew that God existed. I knew it before,
Oh
but
my
like
gosh.
that, I mean, that
Yeah.
was like odds of us dying were higher than actually making it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And those vans too, they're not, well, it depends on what it is, but like the Ford Transit, they have little small 16-inch tires. And so I got to put like a couple 100 pounds of salt in the back. And like my wife has spun it around uh, in a roundabout, with ice, kind of like what you're talking about. But, yeah. And we
Yeah.
got our trailer T-boned when we were in town coming back from a trip. Somebody blew a red light and just smoked our trailer. The trailer flipped. It was John's
Oh.
car. And, all of a sudden we just hear like, it was like the craziest thing ever. Somebody's ice cream fell and they're like, my ice cream. And, luckily
See, but,
yeah,
but you're a
they
safe
hit.
driver.
Well, John has kept us safe this many years. And they hit right behind the car. So,
Yeah.
there was like 2 feet away from smoking us and hit the trailer, which was, again, great. And that's, yeah, you're like, oh, this turned out so well for me. That's God's grace. I reflect too upon like, man, this situation sucks. Like, what am I supposed to learn here? What is the purpose of this? Like in
Yeah.
hardship, right? So this is why we need like a 3-hour conversation with you, Edmundo.
Yeah.
You're
Hey,
amazing.
thank you so much, guys. This is a lot of fun. I think I think you guys are awesome, and I'm a big fan of your work. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for inviting me.
Thank you. Likewise. And I just thought of it too. Like, uh, it's weird because I like to watch things, and I like we try to keep our kids away from screens to a large degree. They can still do stuff, but I was watching some OK Go music videos last night for some research for a project we're doing, and the kids came over, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, sit down! These are amazing." And I was thinking about the Real and True videos, and I was like, this is like a revelation for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, all this really good stuff that I consume, I need to bring the kids in
Yeah.
to participate in it, because who knows what can be that incident that causes them to reach back out,
Yeah.
right?
Hey, I know that we need to go, but I'll tell you a very similar story. So when I came back from Portland visiting the Bible Project guys, I was reviewing one of their series. So I was in my couch in the living room with my phone watching the Wisdom series. So this would
Hmm.
be Job, Ecclesiastes, and Wisdom, right? The three books, the wisdom in the Bible. And they did them in a style that is really, really beautiful. So I'm
Hmm.
watching the first one, and one of my children comes and sits with me and watches it. And then another one, then another one. So three out of the four were all like together, like little kids all over me with the phone. They
Climbing
were
over,
much
yeah.
younger. We're watching it, and we watched the first one, and then they say, "Dad, let's watch the next one," and then they watch the next one. So we watch for like 20 minutes, 21. Each of these videos is about 7 minutes. And my son said to me, "Dad," at the end, "Dad, I feel like I learned more from these videos than all my years of religious education."
Oh, wow.
Like,
Yeah.
boom. Like for me, that was the moment. Like I never forget that. Like two things, right? Like a little bit of like sadness that we're letting these people down. Like what we're
Right.
offering them is not captivating, but like the positive, like there's an opportunity here, right? Like if we could do it well,
Mm.
it lifts their spirit. So, anyways, I'll just share that with you
I
guys.
love it. I love it. Yeah. You encourage me. You make me a better person. Thank you for coming on. We did plug the Real and True. Is there anything else you wanted to plug before we wrap up here?
Yeah, if you're interested on church work, you can go to unleashthegospel.org. So that's
Oh,
like
yes.
the kind of like the fun stuff that we do in the Archdiocese. So there's the stuff that is more church stuff, like diocesan, but then there is this more exciting thing that we do. And I have a great group of people behind it. So unleashthegospel.org. And for a lot of people, that's like they've never seen something like that coming from a Catholic diocese. So go check it out and tell us what you think.
And you guys have a print, a book, right? Are you
Yeah, we
guys
have an
still doing that?
award-winning magazine. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
that is
So
we have like poetry, we have like church fathers, custom illustration,
it's
you
actually
know.
enjoyable. Like it's beautiful. It's enjoyable to consume. I highly recommend it.
Yeah,
Check that out. Yeah. All right.
thank you.
Edmundo, thank you so much for coming on. This is also a podcast. Eventually, you'll find it. You can look down below. Happy Hour Podcast. Sign up for that. You can also hit the bell, follow us, like us. You know what to do on the social platform that you're on. Exactly. Hit the buttons. Do all the things. We're here. Let us know. What you thought. What you want to hear more of. We're going to keep doing more of this because this edifies us, and we think that edifies other people. So we hope that this was entertaining for your heart and your mind. Entertaining for your heart. That's a new thing. Let's get that going. Check that out. Do all the things again. Edmundo, thank you for coming on. We're going to start the happy hour after dark, or we got to come up with better branding for it. And I think we'll have, maybe you could be the first guest on there, because basically I just want to pick your brain. I just want to keep asking you more questions so I
We'll
can,
do whiskey, we'll do some
gain some of
scotch.
that.
Like we'll
Oh
be a
my
little bit
gosh.
like I don't smoke, but you guys can smoke a pipe or a cigar.
Yes.
A different vibe.
I love this for so many reasons. So thanks again, Edmundo, for coming on. John, is there anything else you want to plug? Talk about? Where are you? Over here. You're frozen for me.
Go seek the. Can you?
There you are. I can kind of hear you. Oh, you're gone. Did you lose him? Yeah, you lost him too. Oh,
Yep.
that was good too. He's like, go seek the, and then he's gone.
There you go.
Yeah. So we'll post later. Go seek the whatever John is saying to go seek. This is a part of mystery that is wonderful. That's what we got for today. Thanks for tuning in, Emily. It's funny. Emily works with us as well, and I always say if you get it right, we'll send you some swag. I think Emily has all the swag, so you're back. What do you want to seek, John?
I was gonna. Are we still live?
We are still live. I was like totally wrapping it up because I didn't know if you'd make it back.
Yeah, I got booted somehow. I was gonna say, go seek the answers to the questions you have,
And ask those questions. They are important.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're not afraid. Cool. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Later.